The purpose of this group is to put people in a room together that would normally never be in a room together.
I used to shy away from the property manager. I learned that when you get up to a certain number of units.
Wow, that was a good feeling. So I think that was 2012, 2013.
There are investors who are my clients that haven't even bought it yet.
Welcome, welcome. We are about to get started. I'm Emile Hurst Jnr. with cashforhousingland.com, real estate developer and student of this industry that we all enjoy and love. Very excited about the guest today. We just had a quick conversation. He, from the ground up, has built one of the largest holistic real estate companies in the state of Louisiana. I remember back in 2011, what I was about to tell you, when I first got licensed, I just saw your face and your signs like all over. That was, I was with Gardner Realtors, and to see what you evolved into, even to now with the brokerage, title company, investor, builder, contractor. I'm excited to talk about your evolution. We're going to talk about how he got started. We're going to talk about what he has built, how he has built it, and the day-to-day operations of what it looks like while he's building it. So I want everybody to put their hands together right now for Mr. Eric Hernandez. Eric, yes, so sir. How do you even get started in real estate? Tell us about the beginning. You might want to move up a little bit more.
Oh man, if we go all the way back.
Let's go back.
I built my first house when I was 13 years old with my dad. I still own that house today. That's the only thing I own that I would never sell.
Wow.
So I learned the construction side of things. I went to school, thought I was going to be a lawyer. Had a lot of lawyers tell me that they're a dime a dozen and I maybe should pick another career. And luckily they told me that. I went and got my MBA thinking I was going to open some restaurants. And then one day I bought my house, saw my realtor made $12,000. I was like, I could do this and maybe make a couple extra checks here and there. And got my real estate license back in 2007. But before that, I was already doing construction, flipping houses, whatever. I didn't get heavy into flipping houses though until probably 2010. Got my real estate license in 2007, started with Keller Williams, was there for a couple years, switched to a company called Realty Executives, was there for about another 6. And then 7 years ago, I decided it was time to start my own company, start to teach people the different nuances that I did to make me one of the top 5 agents in all of Metro New Orleans pretty quickly. By my 6th year in real estate, I was one of the top 10, and it wasn't from reading books, it wasn't from watching shows. I basically taught myself, and I said, you know what? Maybe I need to start my own brokerage so that I can share my knowledge with other like-minded people. And here we are 7 years later. We're the 2nd biggest real estate company on the Westbank of Jefferson Parish. We're the 3rd biggest real estate company in all of Jefferson Parish, and we're quickly growing. So I hope to at least achieve, at least Jefferson Parish in the next 3 or 4 years to be number 1. And then New Orleans, give me 15 years, let's see what happens. So.
Yeah. So take us back to 2007, Eric. So normally with the brokerages, when you first get on, they train you on listings. They train you on getting in touch with your sphere of influence to try to get listings, things like that. What did you see differently that kind of helped you move past that normal training?
I find that today a lot of brokerages talk about technology and hiding behind CRMs and how to be in front of a lot more people, when being in front of a lot more people but not building relationships isn't as good as handshakes and creating relationships. And so that's what I get in front of my agents to say, man, you're much better off going to buy somebody a cup of coffee twice a week than you are sending out 200 emails. Because I can tell you the first thing in the morning I do when I open up my emails is, who's going to spam? Who do I not want to see ever again in my inbox? And so I don't teach CRM. I don't even have a CRM in my brokerage. I'm very big on my agents understanding the legality of the contract, not to just fill in the blank. My agents are some of the best agents in the industry when it comes to understanding contracts. When you understand them better, you keep deals together because it's a legally binding contract that people have to honor what they signed up for. And if you don't understand that, some agents are going to get out of contracts in situations where they probably shouldn't have. And so when they understand their contracts better, they're better off. I also teach I have a class at my brokerage that's flipping houses 101, building houses 101. So it helps them strategize how to find the right deals, how to budget for those deals, what the composition of a house is. How do you build a house from the ground up? And so it's a 4-month course where they actually come follow me through the entire step of building a house or rehabbing a house, and I help them understand, why did I do this design? Because of the way you lay out furniture or whatever. Don't overspend in this neighborhood because this is your cap in this neighborhood. But anyways, as far as the construction side, when they understand the composition or the decomposition of a house, it's going to help them with their inspection responses, but it's also going to help them meet some developers who maybe they're not really a developer yet, but they got some money, they got a little bit of construction expertise. Well, now they come add some value to that person, and those are the best clients that a realtor can have, because a person that buys and sells houses for themselves, they might buy a house once every 7 years. But if you find the right developer and you do your job by that developer, they're looking for the next opportunity. So if you're lucky, it's 5 to 10 houses a year for that one developer. You get 3 developers, you're having a comfortable lifestyle. So.
Yeah. So what happened, you talked about getting started in 2007. What happened to help you to ramp up on the flipping side in 2010? What triggered that?
Consumer confidence, which I'm one of those people.
What's that?
2007, 2008, 2009, the world was going to end. It looked like real estate values were going to go to zero, and who knows what was going to happen to America. But 2010 rolled around, consumer confidence started building up, investor confidence started building up, and now you started to see the market upticking. Well, I flipped a couple houses in 2010, made a decent bit of money, and then all of a sudden you want to duplicate that. And so you start to have more capital as well as you start flipping more houses. So instead of doing one at a time, it's 2, 3, 4 at a time, as long as you have the manpower and the money to redo them.
What did financing look like back then in 2010?
Financing was tough. Yeah, financing was a lot harder. But I think that the most complicated thing was confidence. Now everybody gets money for anything, which is good for now, but let's see what happens over the next few months as these interest rates start creeping up.
Yeah, what you mean by confidence? When you say consumer confidence and confidence held with
I mean, if people start seeing other people making money and the market starts to go up, they start to feel confident about it. But from 07 to 09, the market was going down and nobody knew what the bottom was. Oh. So, you don't want to buy it $150,000 if next year it's going to be worth $130,000. Once it started to turn, things got better, and year over year, it got drastically better till we are here now. So.
Yeah. So, what do you see similar between 2010 and now?
2010 was the uptick. Now it's, and I'm not pessimistic about the market by any means. I don't think that there's going to be a big downturn like we had in 07, 08, 09. The government printed a lot of money these last few years due to COVID, that there's a lot of money out there. There's still going to be a lot of cash investors making moves. With inflation as high as it is, even though the Fed's coming in and increasing rates, if water costs more and your shoes cost more and gas costs more, guess what? Houses cost more too. And they're going to continue to go up, I think. I think the interest rates may start to plateau things. Instead of having 30 buyers for every house, it may start to put us back into a normal market.
Right. So as an investor at this point, you want to get prepared for what the most right now?
If you're an investor right now, you want to be actively looking at how the market changes every few weeks, every month, because it can turn for the worse quickly. For instance, I'd prefer right now as a flipper to do more rehabs than to do new construction. And the reason being is if I buy a property and I'm going to build a house, I may be 7 or 8 months before I get a buyer for this. Well, that means I got to hope that the market doesn't change in 8 months. Whereas when it's a rehab, you can get in and out of there in 45 days if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and so you don't take on as much risk. And if you are going to go with the new construction, just make sure that there's enough of a margin that what happens if there's a 5 or an 8% pullback in the market? Is that going to swallow all of your profits? Because if it is, you may want to reconsider that purchase. So
if I'm one of your agents and I need to articulate that, what you just said to one of my clients, so How do you train somebody to convey what you just said?
So my agents understand that this is a service-driven business. You want to get in front of your client, you want to educate your client, and make sure that your client understands, hey, look, these are the risks that we're up against at the moment, and it's not a pessimistic thing at all. The market can turn for the worse at any point in time. I don't think in the next 3 to 6 months it's going to be bad by any means, but I can't look out beyond that personally. So you want to stay on top of running comps and not just pay attention to what's going on across the state or across the country. You want to be paying attention to what's going on specifically in the neighborhoods that you're making your investments to make sure they're not making changes for the worse. Because not to mention, you thought you were going to get $500,000 for this house when you started building. If your agent is consistently paying attention and they start to see a lot more inventory coming on board, well, all of a sudden now prices might start coming down in that neighborhood. You have to realize sooner than later or be prepared to take that hit of maybe I'm not listing at $500,000. Maybe I need to be at 475, 470. I'm not going to make the profit that I thought I was going to make. But if you don't and you start at 500 and you're behind that fallen knife, if the market does start to go down, you may be stuck with a property and lose a bunch of money between your carrying costs and just being a little too aggressive on your asking price.
Yeah. What's some of the early mistakes you made back in 2007 that helped you be one of those top agents 2011?
I got to say, I think I got lucky and I didn't make a lot of mistakes. I can tell you from seeing a lot of investors, one of the biggest mistakes that investors can make is undercapitalization or
What you
not
mean?
making sure. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Just make sure that you have enough liquidity. Don't get overly aggressive. Like if you buy one house and you made $30,000, so in your head you're like, well, if I buy 10, I'm going to make $300,000. But now all of a sudden you stretch yourself too thin. You maybe thought you were going to sell 2 to finish the last 2, and you didn't sell those 2, and you don't have cash. And when you don't have cash and you go to the bank and you don't have cash, the bank's not loaning you what it takes to get those last 2 off your books. And then you're either going to have to fire sale some of these properties. So just be smart to make sure that there's some capital around somewhere, whether it's some hard money lender that you know is going to be available for you, or just don't bite off more than you can chew. I've seen a couple of guys who are making a lot of money do that and bury themselves, and today they're bankrupt. And these are guys that were making $500,000+ a year investing in homes, between building new construction and rehabbing homes, and then they just bit off more than they could chew. And not to mention, you get stuck with 10 properties that you have carrying costs for. If you're not paying attention, that'll swallow all your profits if it took you too long to get to it. So my analogy, don't be like the monkey with his hand in the jar trying to get all the marbles. Just grab your couple and do it smart. Because if you don't have any capital, it can bury you. You could be a guy that had $2 million yesterday and be flat broke in a couple of years because you bit off more than you could chew and you lost on a bunch of projects. So
Yeah, and I think empathy is one of the best skill sets a realtor can have with that realtor-client relationship. So what is your advice to one of your top clients like that? For example, if I was a $2-3 million investor and now I'm down to zero.
I mean, if you're down to zero, you got to find a way to come up with capital again, whether that's finding partners or whatever. But hopefully you get the right advice early that you don't get in that situation. Make sure you got the right people on your team. Make sure you got the right realtor on your side that's going to actually, some realtors show up, they put a sign in the yard and hope that somebody shows up to sell your house. Not us. My agents, like I said, it's a full service thing. We're paying attention to your projects along the way. We're paying attention to the market along the way so that you can position yourself accordingly so that you have a little less risk.
Yeah, gotcha. So from being a top agent and then starting your own brokerage, how do you get to the point now to start adding on other layers to the business? What pushed you to do that?
As far as from the title side, so my company started in 2015. Around 2018, we gained traction pretty quickly, and I had some national brands that were coming to me saying, hey, come join us. I'm like, nah, I'm going to be NOLA Living till I die. My company's going to be a local company forever. Or not forever, but as long as I'm alive. And like, well, come at least see what we do different. So I was like, all right, I'll come learn from you. And so they flew me out to New Jersey to go see that this was Weichert. Flew me out to New Jersey to go check out their operations. Better Homes and Gardens flew me out to New York. And so I was like, I'm not joining y'all, but I'll pay attention. And so one of the things that I learned was, when you do a certain volume, it only makes sense to have your own title company because you have it in-house. And also when we have 3 title attorneys that work for us. one being my partner. My agents now have at their disposal their cell phone to 3 title attorneys 24/7. If they have a question at 9 o'clock at night, it's there to their benefit. So it doesn't hurt to have 3 title attorneys on staff.
Yeah. And what's some of the challenges that you learned with the title companies that maybe you had a misunderstanding about title companies when you're on the outside looking in?
Oh man, the title business is a lot harder than I thought it was. A lot harder than I thought it was. Matter of fact, if I had to redo it again, I might not even do it. It's tough, man. From y'all's perspective, it's really tough because y'all bring in these complicated deals that somebody's got to unravel. But even just not the non-complicated ones, it's a tough business. Title company is a lots of respect to you, sir. It's definitely a tough business, but we're doing it. And hopefully, once I master title, the next step is going to be lending.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I want NOLA Living to have NOLA Living Realty, NOLA Living Title. Then we go to lending, and then hopefully to insurance.
So what's an example of one of the challenges that you uncovered? Because I can only imagine, but from memory, what's one of those tough challenges when you knew that title companies were mind-blowing?
Man, there's a lot of people to please, and you just gotta try to figure out a way to just be very diplomatic to please everybody as you're sometimes giving some really tough information to them. And it's as wholesalers, y'all see some of these deals that have a lot of layers because, you know, when you first talk to them, they don't tell you that there's 20 liens on the property or that there's whatever. And then as a title company, we start digging in, and we thought we had a deal that was all fine and dandy. Turns into, nope, there's going to be a 6-month deal of finding this cousin that lives in Atlanta and the other one that lives in New York, and hopefully we get them to agree, but they hate each other, and you got to try to find some kind of way to offer somebody something to be like, all right, I just need you to sign this one piece of paper, and they're just not always that ready to sign that piece of paper. It's tough. I don't want to give any specifics to talk about any deals, but it's a tough business. I prefer being a realtor by far.
I can imagine. So now from being on the outside, who, in your opinion, because we all investors in the room, whose responsibility you think is it to get those documents signed? Is it all on the title company, or should the other parties make some type of effort to get those signatures to push it across?
Whoever has the relationship, obviously, that should be the first person that should try. But the title company will, a good servicing title company is going to try to help where they can help, because that's why there's, I don't know how many title companies out there, but if you don't give a certain level of service, they're going to pick another title company. So we want to try to do what we can for them, but not everything, because some wholesalers come in and just drop you, hey, here's a million problems, fix them. Like, nah, we're not even definitely going to get to the finish line, so I'm not sure I want to play this puzzle. So, but no, it just depends. If whoever has the easier relationship, start there, and then sometimes the title company is going to be coming behind, cleaning up a little bit of the mess.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So as an investor and a broker and owning a title company, what you learned about managing cash flows with all those different streams? So one thing to have multiple flips going on and trying to manage that cash flow, which you talked about. So what's kind of your approach with managing cash flows with different streams and that way and keeping it all together?
I just go back to undercapitalization. Just make sure you're not undercapitalized. Don't bite off more than you can chew just because you think that opportunity is going to be your home run, so you empty your bank account. Anything can go wrong. The market can change at any day. COVID was a prime example of things changing overnight. Shockingly, they changed overnight for the better in real estate. Matter of fact, when COVID first hit, I sold 5 of my properties immediately because I said, let me get some cash in the bank. Because from what I'm seeing, this might be the end of the world. Not really, but things are going to be tough financially. And I said, man, I need to go put some money aside because I don't think real estate's going to do that well, and I still got all these bills to pay. Right. And so I sold some stuff. But I go back to undercapitalization. Always make sure that you have enough cash. Don't spend your last penny on your flip, because if it takes you an extra couple months to sell, now you're ruining your credit because you couldn't find the cash to pay those 2 notes. So just make sure you're not undercapitalized. That's the most important thing, and that's from every aspect of every one of my businesses.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, man. And on the investor side, what's your experience like with recruiting and retaining contractors to keep these jobs rolling and make sure you get into the finish line on time
I'm
or ahead
lucky.
of time?
All my friends are in the trade. So my plumber's one of my best friends. My electrician's a good friend of mine. My AC guy's a good friend of mine. And then I keep 6 guys in-house. Luckily, I'm Spanish. There's some of the most hardest working people in the city are the Latinos that are coming down here after every one of these storms. And luckily, I'm Spanish, so I speak Spanish, so I get to keep a crew. So I got 6 guys that work for me all the time, and it actually benefits me a lot from the real estate side, from the real estate sales. Because since I have a crew of 6 guys, at any point in time, we're 2 days from a closing, and somebody didn't get something finished that they were supposed to get done, I'm like, stop what y'all doing, let's go knock this out, and we make it to the closing with no problems. Yeah, no, I haven't had a lot of headaches. I had them in 2010 in the first couple of flips where you hire somebody, you have some growing pains. You hire somebody, they mess up, you lost a little bit of money, you move on to the next project. But after you got kicked in the teeth a couple times, you learned those were bad people. You hired the right ones, and I've been doing it for a while now that it's smooth sailing now. Because I don't even have to, my electrician needs something from the AC guy. They don't have to call me. They call each other. So it just takes extra steps out of the way for me because they've been working with each other for so long.
Right.
So
for the new investor or for one of your agents that's working with the new investor, they got the deal, they followed your coaching. What's your advice for them that can't use your friends with recruiting and finding those?
it's a crucial part.
Sales.
It's a crucial part to, you get the wrong contractor, you're going to lose money. And you get the wrong contract, you're going to ruin your reputation as well. Be on your job sites watching them. I get other people are investors and they have other jobs, so they think they can't go to the job and watch people. If this is your first time working with this contractor, you should be on that job site every single day, watching what's going on to make sure that things are going right. And if ever you feel uncomfortable, the sooner you fire that contractor, the better off you're going to be. Because if not, this contractor does a half-ass job of finishing the job, and nobody finds out until you go to sell the house, and the home buyer comes with their home inspector that rips the house apart, and now you're going to spend double because you had to, tear some stuff out to do it right. So try to get it right the first time. Check referrals. Don't just hire the cheapest guy. If you're grabbing somebody from Home Depot, it better just be for painting or something minor, because you don't know how good they're going to be. So unless you have a foreman on the job that can keep an eye on, new hires, like I have 2 guys that I trust, they can do everything except for your trades, your plumbing, your AC, and your electric. They can do everything. So I got 2 guys that if I do bring on a new guy, they can watch him. And they also like training them. So I'm lucky. I got 2 guys that really like take some of these younger kids on and show them the ropes. And they'll keep an eye on things. And they've been working with me for a long time. They're very, very well paid. They're like family to me. They come to, they can borrow my house when they want to come throw a party at my house. When you have that kind of relationship, they look out for you. So
Yeah. What's your opinion on the insurance side? So we got a split room with some people believe if you're an investor, you should carry your own workman's comp, or you should hire a contractor to have his own workman's comp, or you just blowing the dice and hope for the best with who you
have
got.
workman's comp, you have to be prepared for workman's comp to come open your books at any time. And you have to be very organized and on top of your stuff. It's better if your employees or your subcontractors have their own workman's comp, because at the end of the day, it winds up cheaper for you. And some of that liability of the hits that they take go on them, not you. So it's better if they have it. But I mean, if somebody's painting or something minor, I'm not that worried about it.
Right.
But if it's, somebody's getting on a roof, you better have workman's comp if you're going to touch any of my stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. And for your agents that have new investors also, and for the people that do the 1 and 2 flips, and then they get ready to go buy the Lamborghini or the Tesla, what's your advice on when to splurge?
I go back to undercapitalization.
Yeah.
You got to think of, so some investors are just flippers. Some investors want to do buy and hold. If you're just flipping, you can go splurge more than if you buy and hold, because when you buy and hold and you want to borrow from money for the next deal, most of the banks want to see that you can carry your expense on all of your rentals. So they may require you to have $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 on the side. And you're like, man, why so much? Well, what happens if a Katrina hits and you can't pay your note for 6 months. They want to make sure that all that's covered. So if you're a buy and hold, again, I go back to undercapitalization. Make sure you have a substantial amount of extra cash before you start getting flashy or wasting money. Now, if you're flipping, it's not a big deal because they're really just give me my 20% down. They're not really worried about all the other debt service as much, or you just don't have a lot of, like I have 50 some odd properties, and 30 of them have a note on it. So every time I go borrow money, I got to go explain all this to the bank, and they want to make sure that I have enough capital to cover all those notes in the event that that's for 6 months. So yeah, if you're just flipping, go have some fun with your money. If you want buy and hold, be a little more responsible.
Yeah. So next question is, what you learned about taxes with that cash?
I pay a lot of taxes. When Uncle Sam wants his money, just give him his money. I don't do 1031 exchanges. I just give Uncle Sam his money. I probably should learn more about 1031 exchanges. But I don't know, I like getting in and out and not having to explain anything. Later on, here's your tax dollars, which is, it hurts at the end of the year when I got to cut these checks, but it is what it is. It's part of, it beats working at McDonald's and getting a check back. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so what all that you learn, man, what do you think is your advantage with the operation that you run? So as an investor, what advantages do you have by being an agent and having that title company as your secret weapons in your back pocket?
I've got everything at my fingertips. I've got everything at my fingertips quick, so I can call my title attorney to give me answers at 8 o'clock at night if I want to pull a trigger on a property. Hey, are there any extra liens on this property? And they'll go pull up what they got to pull up. As an agent, I know how to run comps better than just about anybody out there, so I'm quick to figure out the value, so I don't have to waste time. And everybody in here deals with wholesalers. The faster you can get an answer to, every wholesaler that works with me knows if I want it, Steve's my witness. I'll call him. He sent out the email to 800 people, and Eldridge would know this too. I want it, all cash, no inspections, we're done. Take it off the market. But when you know what you're buying immediately, I don't have to worry about inspections. I might have to go do a quick drive-by to go see it real quick, and then it's gone, and then I don't have to fight all of y'all for the deal. So knowledge is power, and having those contacts at your fingertips. So you want to have a relationship with a title company, a title attorney, sometimes where you could pick up the phone and say, hey, can you check on this for me real quick? Or your realtor who is going to grind 24/7. So when you call them at 9 o'clock at night, you need an answer quick. Hey, what's the finished value on this? Because I know I'm going to spend 90 grand fixing this up. What can you sell it for? And when you're confident with your agent, you know they can run your comps real quick and give you that number. You could pull the trigger. Now you don't have to wait till tomorrow when 19 other people saw this house, and now you're in a bidding war. So I think that's what gives me a big advantage.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're in the trenches, man. So tell us about what you learned about the art of managing these appraisers. So on the flip side, you need it to be a certain way. If you're doing a refinance, you need it to be a certain way. And when you're selling it, you need it to be a certain way. So what have you learned about working with appraisers at your advantage?
So as a realtor, and I don't want to say it's to my advantage, but as a realtor, I run comps. And when I go meet an appraiser out there, I already ran the comps that gave me the value on where I need to be. And I'm not inflating anything. I ran comps that justify the value. And then I give it to the appraiser and say, look, I made your life a little bit easier. I'm not telling you what to do, but these are the comps when I ran that got me to my value. And I understand running comps very well. And it makes their life easier. And sometimes they like it. Sometimes they don't like being told what to do, and then you got to kind of step off. But most of them appreciate it because they're busy. Now they didn't have to run and look at 30 different properties to figure out which ones were the best fit. And I'm looking for the true best fit. I don't want to, when I run comps and I'm an investor, if I think it's worth $500,000, I'm going to guarantee that I can justify that it's worth $500,000. If not, I shouldn't have been investing in that property expecting that sale price. So I meet them with the comps. So for those of you who aren't realtors, just make sure that you have a realtor that's willing to do that work for you, to either meet the appraiser for you or to give you the comps that you need so that you can give them to your appraiser and explain to them, hey, this is where I came up with my value. Now, don't go strong-arming appraisers. The pen is mightier than the sword. You know, just very politely say, look, this is how I came up with it. Maybe this makes your life easier. And if you're like, nope, I don't want it, you got it. I respect that 100%. But as polite as you can be to the appraiser, it works in your favor. So.
And you mean having it printed out, meeting the appraiser?
Printed out, ready to go. Sometimes it's a CMA, sometimes it's just comparables. But I'm showing them exactly how I came up to my value. And like I said, it makes their life easier if it's done right. Don't have somebody wanting to inflate things, because then you're going to have problems, and you'll get a reputation of trying to do that as well. And then when they show up, you don't want to get on the appraiser's bad side. The pen is mightier than the sword. That's all I can really tell you. But if you do your homework right for them, your life will be easier.
Gotcha. Talk about your approach with your brokerage. Seems like you have a teacher, a coach approach with your brokerage. Where did that come from?
Every brokerage I was at, they taught classes, but they taught stuff just to have classes, but not really to teach stuff, if that makes sense. All of my classes are actual practical things that I've been doing for the last 15 years that I've been on the business. And I don't teach fluff. I don't want to just make up a class just to have something to do. If you come to one of my classes, it's something that's probably going to make you a little bit better at being a realtor. And so education is the most important thing of a broker, in my opinion. You know, some of these small brokerages that don't teach their agents anything blow my mind. I don't even think they should be brokers, to be honest with you, because you're responsible for their growth, but also the public, so that the public's well protected. Well, if you're not teaching them everything they need to learn, how are they going to properly protect the public that they're servicing? So yeah, education is the most important thing. We have a class almost every single week at my brokerage. I have almost $400 million in sales under my belt, and I teach a class a couple of times a month. But they're hearing it from somebody that's made every mistake under the sun, seen every problem under the sun, and that's better than learning at some of these new brokerages or other brokerages where they may put a 2-year agent in to teach these classes. How many mistakes have they really made to really learn from? But yeah, education is important. And I also do a lot of one-on-one in my brokerage too, because not everybody can make the times that I have available for them. So if anybody can't make it and they need one-on-one, it's just too important. Education is too important that I got to make sure that I'm available for them.
So if undercapitalization is one of the biggest things that sticks out to you for an investor, what's one of the biggest challenges that sticks out when you have your realtor hat on that you've learned?
Biggest challenges. One, you're too quiet. A closed mouth doesn't get fed in this business. There's 9,000 other realtors in our MLS. So if you're selling real estate and you're not willing to make some noise, nobody's going to know you exist. You could be the best realtor in the world, but if you're quiet in that corner, you're not going to have a whole lot of sales. So you've got to make some noise. And we have somebody in-house that I have a marketing manager that is a graphic design major, but just loves doing research with everything that has to do with social media marketing. So she's always at the forefront of knowing what's next and what's working and all the statistics behind it. And she's quick to educate my agents, which I'm super lucky to have her doing that. So
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the culture, because I've heard like how all of the brokerage kind of eat, sleep, and breathe investment, go getter. Where does that culture come from, and how do you drive it on a day-to-day basis to where it doesn't fizzle out?
I don't know. It happens organically, but I guess I'm always on the go. I'm always got my hand in 5-10 flips, understanding rental properties, thinking about generational wealth that I'm teaching my agents. So as they see me doing stuff, they come to the office to get energized. And I mean, we have a dozen developers, agents in my brokerage, and everybody sees them making moves, and they're, you know, some of our top agents, and, you know, people start seeing them making money and they want to gravitate to them. So we're lucky. Almost everybody in my brokerage, when another agent asks them a question, they're quick to lend a hand and help them grow. So it's not, everything doesn't fall on my back to teach, you know, these 140 agents. Most everybody on my team is quick to help somebody else grow, which is nice.
Yeah. So what's your philosophy on work-life balance, man? I know you got a family and you got this operation that's running. I think the whole room has 24 hours a day, I think, unless they figured out how to crack the code. So with your 24, how you manage that?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I just had a son 21 months ago. I love spending time with him. I probably don't spend as much time as I should because I'm always doing so much. But before I had my son, it was 24/7. You could call me Christmas Day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and say, "Hey, Eric, I need to go see this property." I'm like, I'm going to go close it. That's how I'm driven. Yeah, no, it's something I haven't figured out yet that I need to figure out now that, my son's starting to have a personality now and he can start doing stuff. So I'm gonna start to have to figure out a way to turn off my phone for an hour or two here and there so I can spend some time with him.
Yeah, where does the drive come from? What's your why?
Generational wealth. It's important for me to set up his future. So yeah, I got a long way to go to make sure that he never has to worry about anything.
Yeah, no problem, man. So, what's your classes? Is that only for the brokerage, or is that open to the public also? The investment class.
It is semi-open to the public. So I let other people come who aren't agents at NOLA Living, even agents from other companies, to come to the classes. But we have to have some sort of relationship a little bit. I couldn't open it up to the masses. But if you ever have a real estate question of any sort, I'll give my cell phone to everybody in here. Hit me up. And I don't even have to be a realtor. You just have a complicated question. You're stuck in a jam. Feel free to pick up the phone and give me a call. But to open it up to everybody, man, those would be some big classes. My classrooms aren't this big. So.
Gotcha. And we're going to take questions in a little while. But like I told you, we want to make sure that we help each other. So how can this group help you with closing the gap from your current state and your future state? What is it? How can we add value to NOLA Living?
Anybody that's here that's a wholesaler, we've got plenty of capital. I wouldn't ask for a raise of hand, I'm just saying in general, but we can talk afterwards. I've got plenty of capital for projects that you have. Anybody that wants to learn about being a real estate agent, come talk to me. We're one of the fastest growing real estate companies in the city, and it's because I'm invested in my agents' education to get them to the next level. So anybody that wants to learn and maybe see if real estate's meant for them, come check it out. I will tell you, if you're a wholesaler, you probably shouldn't get a real estate license. And the reason being is we have, as a realtor, you have responsibilities to the public that it's kind of hard to go to somebody and say, hey, I'm gonna give you $60,000 for your house, turn around and try to sell it for 90. Unless that person clearly knows what you're doing, there may be an ethics violation in that you misled them into thinking it was worth less than what it was. So if you're a wholesaler, don't come to my brokerage. There are some other brokerages that will accept you. I'll give you advice if you need it, but wholesalers aren't allowed at the brokerage. But anybody who wants to get into sales, real estate sales it's a pretty amazing career.
Yeah. And if you had to choose out of all three, title company, broker, investor, which one
I
you
already know how I
picking?
feel about the title company.
Which one you picking?
Man, the easiest is investor, but I love being a broker. I love having people who 5 years ago were making $30,000 a year, and now they're making 100, 150, 200,000 because they chose the right path in life, just something different. So it's a pretty awesome feeling. Watching my agents grow it's like I have 140 kids. It's pretty cool, and watching them succeed day in and day out is pretty awesome. So that probably takes number one.
Yeah, perfect. We're gonna open the floor for questions. Just raise your hand. Yes.
In your opinion, what is the best software for accurate comps in the Northwest area?
Oh, the MLS. That's why you need a realtor. Partner up with a realtor. They're your friend, I promise. Just find one that works hard. I don't know what other software you would use. So as a realtor, I don't use anything other than, I'm curious, is there other software that people use to run comps? Huh?
Yes.
What do you guys use?
Mello just got MLS listings back. So not Mello, PropStream just got MLS listing data back.
So you want that, and you also want to, but it helps when you have running comps is a little more complicated than the average person thinks. They really just look at price per square foot, and they don't understand adjustments. And so you want to get somebody to teach you how to make those proper adjustments. Because if you're just looking at price per square foot, you may shoot too high, you may shoot too low. When you understand adjustments is what the appraisers do, you'll be more in line with what an appraiser is going to come up with on value. And again, that's why you want a realtor. And realtors don't get paid unless they close your deal. So build a relationship, but make sure it's a good realtor, because we all know some realtors are great and some realtors aren't that great. Make sure you pick the right one.
What's an example of those adjustments? Because I know the quick comps, you just want to find the closest square footage. So what's some other adjustments?
So we're talking about comparables. When you want a comparable, you want it to be the closest in everything, in proximity, in size, in condition. So I don't want to compare a 6,000 square foot house to a 3,000 square foot house. 'Cause let's just say that 3,000 square foot house is $200 a square foot. Without doing adjustments, the layman says, okay, the $3,000 house got $200 a foot, which is 600 grand. Well, my 6,000 square foot house, you get 1.2 million. And that's not how it works. You've got to look at numbers of bedrooms and make adjustments accordingly. You need to look at condition, make adjustments accordingly. If there's a difference in lot size, you're going to make adjustments accordingly. And then after you tally all that up is what gives you the actual value of the house. But to put it in layman's terms, they wind up, everything is spoken of in price per square foot. But you really need to understand adjustments in order to truly understand value.
And you really doing those adjustments in the CMA calculators in the MLS?
Correct.
Okay.
When you have it in the MLS, it's already built in. So you put it in the CMA, you pick the 3 or 4 or 5 houses and say the one that you're adjusting isn't on there. We'll just make sure you measure it and understand all the details that you need to put in there. And then it does all the calculations for you. But you need to know when to add and when to subtract. And also understand that there's no book that you go to as an appraiser and says, oh, a bedroom is worth this much. It's really up to an appraiser's discretion. Yeah. So one person may give an extra bedroom of $7,000, another one may give it $10,000. That's why the goal is to find the most comparable house, so there's less adjustments. The less adjustments they are, the less the difference between my opinion and your opinion are going to be, so the less times you're going to have to fight with the appraiser.
Good answer. David.
What kind of issues have you seen with homeowners insurance these days?
I'm seeing deals die to where, people were expecting $3,500 and they're getting $7,000 on homeowners. That's scarier than interest rates moving forward. We'll see over time who's going to be writing policies and who's not going to be writing policies. There's going to be an opportunity for some people. I don't understand it, and they understand weather better, but I would think that if I roll the dice and I rolled 12 last year, I already took my hit. So why would I want to start collecting money moving forward? But I don't own an insurance company, so I don't really understand what their logic is for backing out after you lost all the money. I would think I want to spend a few years trying to recoup it.
So what would you tell an investor about that?
What would I tell an investor about that? So the same things that I told them whenever they changed the flood rules years ago. One of the most important things that you had to pay attention to when they changed the flood rules, where flood insurances were going from $1,000 to $3,500, $4,000, you better understand the insurance if you buy it. And I don't care if you're a cash buyer, if your goal is to resell it. Make sure that you have your insurance guy on hand to be able to reach out to and try to understand all the details. Don't hide the fact that there's aluminum wiring. Don't hide things from them, because then the next person is going to tell them the truth and the rate's going to be too high and it's going to price somebody out of being able to buy a house. And ultimately what people look at is what their house note's going to be. So if interest rates are higher and insurance is higher, that just means you're buying less of a house. So just make sure that it may look like the most amazing deal, like, wow, I'm buying this for $100 a foot and the neighborhood's going for $2. I'm walking into equity, and then you don't realize the insurance was so high, you priced everybody out of being able to buy your property. And it's more price sensitive in your cheaper market than it is in your more expensive. Because a guy that's spending $1 million on a house, if he's got to spend an extra $500 or $1,000 a month, he's got it. It's these people that are buying these $2 and $3 and $150,000 houses that they're on a budget. So when their insurances are adjusted by $200 or $300 more a month, now they can't afford the house. So be very, very cognizant of insurance prices before you buy anything right now.
So what conversation you having with your insurance broker when you buying that flip when it's at $30,000, but you know once it's finished it's going to be worth $275? Are you getting quotes at $275 to see what it look like?
Your insurance guy should be basing it off of replacement value, so it's not really going to matter. You actually wind up getting lucky. If you buy it early on at $50,000, but it's a 2,000 square foot house, they're going to base it on replacing a 2,000 square foot house, and so your insurance is going to be still based on a 2,000 square foot house. Let's just say they call it $120 a foot. that 2,000 square foot house, they're going to give you 240,000 in insurance. And if you get lucky and a hurricane comes and blows you out before you finish, you get your 240. But even after you finish, it's still the same insurance.
Yeah.
It typically should be, unless you're doing like a builder's risk, then you're not getting a homeowner's policy. But a homeowner's policy on a 2,000 square foot house replacement value, they're going to be the same when you start as when you finish, because they're basing it off of what it would take to replace it. So,
Next question.
So do you have a solution for the insurance?
oh, no. No,
I mean, I know a lot of investors, and most of them tend to self-insure and consider the insurance a racket. Of course, after I'm a property manager, so after the massive amount of storms, I'm dealing with rebuilding lots of properties without insurance.
I don't use the word racket, but I use the word casino. So the insurance companies like casino. You're actually betting that something bad is going to happen. And when something bad happens, you get paid. But casinos, the way that their statisticians do what they do, it's rigged so the house makes money. But it's just how it goes. You are protecting yourself, but you are taking some gambles. I self-insure where I can self-insure, but you got to be careful that you don't. Let's just say all of your inventory is in New Orleans and you've got $10 million worth of inventory. What happens if another Katrina comes? You know, so I'm partially self-insured and partially not. I'm willing to take a little bit of a gamble, but there's no way on earth I'm going to put all my chips on the table and close my eyes and hope that it doesn't land on the wrong number. So for those who are self-insured and you got the stomach to do it, that's their philosophy. And I like being self-insured, but partially self-insured, because then, I mean, I got lucky after Katrina. I mean, not after Katrina, for Ida. I have a camp in Grand Isle. I was about to pay it off in July and take the insurance off. I was so busy, I didn't take the insurance off. Thank God. And I wanted to pay the insurance, which was like $16,000 a year. I had nothing left. I didn't have a piling left. I didn't have anything left. And I got $306,000 to save 16. Thank God I didn't get rid of that policy. So if you can afford it and you can afford to rebuild after a storm for what you have, by all means, it's okay. But we live in an area that, I mean, Katrina was only 15 years ago, and think how many times we've had a problem 17 years ago since Katrina. You know, we've had 4 storms at least that have done damage in this area, big damage. It makes sense to have some insurance. You know, maybe not to the max, but at least a little bit, so. Any other questions?
Talk about building houses from the ground up.
Yes.
Is that something that you, is that something that you prefer, or you prefer getting?
Oh, I prefer rehabs, and I said that a little while ago. Even before. With new construction, you can kind of control your expenses because you don't have as many surprises. But with new construction, it takes you 6, 8, 10 months. And when you're that long into a project, you're running through hurricane season. You're running the risk of markets changing. You know, for a while I was getting lucky when the market was appreciating. Every time I bought something and it took me a year to finish it, I got lucky and made an extra $20,000 or $30,000 because the market was going up. But right now, we'll see what happens. I think we're going to plateau, but there's a possibility that there's a little bit of a pullback, and some people argue that there's going to be a big pullback. I don't think there's going to be a big pullback in values. But if you're stuck with that property for 8 months, as the market's doing this, there went all your profits. So I prefer flips that I can get in and out pretty quickly. So, rehabs. Yes.
Eric, thanks for being here. Where are you seeing opportunities in the market right now?
I mean, there's opportunities everywhere. You just got to keep your eye specifically. I mean, Jefferson Parish is great. Orleans Parish isn't as great because you have right now people leaving New Orleans because of they don't trust what's going on. There's crime and you can't call the police. I don't know if anybody saw me tie a criminal up the other day, but I made the news because somebody broke in my house and I had to tie him up. So I couldn't wait for the police. So, but that's causing me to sell all my properties in New Orleans. Matter of fact, my mid-city office is a block away from where that lady had her arm ripped off her shoulder. And what if that was one of my employees? So yeah, I'd be a little more cautious in New Orleans with some people leaving Orleans, but the suburbs are doing great. Jefferson Parish is doing great. But just make sure that whatever you're doing, keep your eye on comps. Pay attention every 2 or 3 weeks. Don't buy something and then wait for your realtor to run comps for you 6 months later Hopefully you have a good realtor that's invested in you, and you'll have a good relationship that they're going to help you every step of the way, and they're going to be paying attention, saying, look, we got 12 other houses that just popped up in the last few weeks, so either you got to make yours a lot more awesome than those, or you got to figure out a way to be cheaper than those, and so you better start budgeting that and make some adjustments midway as you're flipping this house. So don't overinvest right now, because I don't know what the market's going to do. I'm not pessimistic, but I don't know what it's going to do. So don't, if you normally flip 3 at a time and you get an opportunity to do 7 right now, don't do 7 right now. Keep a little cash on the side, and just see what happens. Hopefully nothing happens, and the Fed does what the Fed's supposed to do, and the market does what it's supposed to do, and we're talking 2 years from now and the market's up 7, 8, 10%. But we very well could be talking 2 years from now and our market's down 15%. And the more you have in your hand, the more you could lose. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, one more, and Steve, you could come up for needs and wants. We're gonna wrap up. What metrics are you looking at when you're checking those comps every 2 weeks? So if I got a flip in Jefferson Parish, Woodmere, for example, it's taking 3 months for title to clear up because it's a succession. So I'm calling you, Eric. What values are we looking at? Leading up to when it does close and I need to flip it, besides price?
So an appraiser is going to look at comps in the past. A good realtor is going to, or anybody who's investing is going to look at today and the future. So you want to see how much new inventory there is, what's under contract, and so that way that shows you how much competition you have and how fast that competition is disappearing. But if that competition is slowly stockpiling, where today you had 2 houses that you were up against, and next month you have 6 houses you're up against, and the following month you have 12 houses you're up against, that means you're starting to have more buyers than more sellers than buyers. And in that situation, instead of doing this when there was more buyers than sellers, it's that simple. When that switches, so you got to pay attention. How many houses sold in the last 3 months? If there were 9 sold in the last 3 months, that means 3 houses a month are selling. Well, if there's 27 for sale, you don't want to touch that neighborhood, because it's going to take you 3 years to work your way through that inventory. I want to touch things that have less than 90 days worth of inventory available, because that means I can get in and out of my property in a reasonable amount of time. And ideally less than 30 days. That's where you, as a flipper, that's where you really want to be, because then you're listing it and it's gone the day you listed it. So.
Yeah, I had a question.
As a realtor, you say you're not using technology.
Speak up a little.
As a realtor, you say you're not using much of the new technology. So what would be advice as the one-on-one?
Just staying in front of your clients. I'm funny. I have you come in my office, I got dry erase board. You can write on everything. You write on my desk, you can write on the walls, everything's glass and can be written on, and I write myself notes. Well, I have in my phone and all around my office future listings, future clients, and it just reminds me when I'm sitting down doing something for 5 minutes, who haven't I talked to on that board? And I just shoot them a quick text, let them know that they matter. That's more important than sending a mass email, and people will realize that. And so when you send mass emails, if you over mass email, they're going to put you to spam. And then once you start getting identified as spam, I don't care who you email, all your stuff's going to everybody's spam. And so now you have to call every time you send somebody an email. Hey Steve, I just want to make sure that you got that email because you've been recognized as spam. So I try to stay away from your CRMs, which it works great for some people. It's just not for me. I want to stay in front of the people that matter. So.
Yeah. Any more question?
Are you licensed in Mississippi?
I'm licensed in Mississippi. Cool. Are you a realtor? Awesome.
Perfect. Well, Eric, man, we want to thank you again for your time. How can we get in touch with you?
504-259-7945. That's my cell phone. You can find me anytime. Ideally, text me, because if you call me, I may not be able to get to it right away. If you don't leave a message, that meant that it wasn't an important phone call. So text me or leave a message, but text is going to be the most instant way. 504-259-7945.
And for the wholesalers in the room, tell them to text you or
Wholesalers, you
email.
got a deal. You send it to me. I got cash, and I got a lot of buyers that have cash and a lot of agents at my brokerage that have cash. So you brought me $10 million worth of inventory that makes sense. I'll give you $10 million tomorrow.
Y'all heard that? All right. Thank you again, everybody. Put your hands together for Eric.